You're watching Good Morning Albany, a motivational podcast to get your wheels turning. You're here with Shalene Love, a very sought-after wedding and portrait photographer. I'll be sitting down with creatives to discuss their process, their journey, and how to make a difference. Good morning, good morning, good morning. How you doing?
Good morning. I'm glad to be here.
It's a pleasure to have you.
Oh,
Today,
yes, I'm so happy.
we have RoseMarie. Let's see if I can get this right. Of Project Shrinking Violet.
Yes, that's right. You got it.
Can you let the people know exactly what that is?
So Project Shrinking Violet is my documentary / brand that I am currently working on. It will wrap in September of this year, kind of culminating with my 20-year high school reunion. But Project Shrinking Violet is a documentary of my weight loss journey. But really, it's more than that. It talks about the psychology of being obese. It talks about trauma. It talks about socioeconomic. I talk to Overeaters Anonymous. I talk to psychologists. I talk to other plus-size people. It's not just my story. It's kind of an overall look. It's a different look at obesity. I want to change the dynamic of looking at obesity as a disease and more as a symptom.
Yes.
So, to date, I've lost 100 pounds, and I have about 80. Well, according to the BMI and that book, I got 100 to go. But according to me and how I feel and kind of what I'm working towards, I got about 80 pounds to go. But I didn't just solely do it by myself. I had a gastric sleeve, so I lost 40 on my own and 60 since the sleeve. So
okay, can you explain to me what's a sleeve?
So the gastric sleeve actually, and it's different than the gastric bypass. The gastric bypass actually reroutes your intestine, pretty much, so your food goes straight from in to out. The gastric sleeve, they remove a portion of your stomach and reduce the stomach to about the size of an egg. So it's essentially a tool to reteach you how to eat.
Okay.
So for someone like me who's been obese the majority of their life, like all of my adulthood, by the time I was 18, I was 400 pounds.
Okay.
So I'm actually, it's a tool to like relearn how to eat in the same way that like the patch kind of works for nicotine. You know, if someone's going to quit cigarette smoking, you're going to get on the patch, you're going to wean yourself down. It's the same kind of principle.
Okay.
This is a tool that, when I've had enough, my stomach is full, and it's full exponentially faster than it was. So I feel it immediately.
How did you come to terms with you wanted to lose the first 40 and then have the sleeve?
Well, here's the thing. So in order to have a gastric sleeve or a gastric bypass or any weight loss surgery, they require you to lose weight. Because so much of it is psychological, you have to show that you have the ability to really maintain weight loss post-surgery. And because it's a huge change, especially if as someone who's going from big calorie intakes to very small ones, you have to be able to mentally be able to handle it. So they require you to lose, I think it's like 15% of your body fat before you even qualify for the surgery. So I had to lose 18 pounds. That's all I had to lose, and I wasn't worried about losing that. Why I personally selected the surgery versus other methods, that is a little bit more in depth, because I have to some degree lost weight on my own, but never successfully. And what I found was that I would get to a certain weight and become depressed and have anxiety and stop working out. And I couldn't really figure out what the problem was. And it wasn't until I went into therapy that I realized that psychologically I was holding on to my weight because I had learned it as a coping mechanism, as a kind of way to kind of keep people away from me. So I think once I learned that I was kind of doing this to myself, I wanted it gone instantly. Like, I can't explain it. Like, up until that point, it was like a regular, oh, I want to lose weight. Oh, I want to lose weight. But like, you know, women, like every woman says that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But and I'm someone who's goal oriented, and I couldn't figure out in my mind why I could make things happen, but for some reason I couldn't make this happen. And you say you want something, but like, you know, you have a business and you have a family. When you really want something,
you go get it.
You go get it. And so I was trying to figure out, like, why don't I really want this? Like, what's really stopping me? And when going through therapy, I realized that a lot of it was associated to childhood trauma. And so in the course of therapy, I kind of discovered that childhood molestation is really what had spurred me to like gain the weight and keep it on. Like, I associated it with safety, that was going to be something that kept me safe. So essentially, it's like taking away a blankie or like a pacifier at 37 years old.
Yeah.
Like, it's part of me. But coming to the realization that essentially I was wearing a scar, that didn't sit well with me at all. Like, that the fact that I was physically exuding a pain that I felt like I kind of had emotionally handled, but I guess on some level I still hadn't. So that's what made the decision for me to get the surgery, because I was like, I want this gone now.
Yeah.
Because I want to start working on the other stuff, and I need this gone first.
So before the surgery, it goes through your head. It's psychological that you want to lose the weight. You build up the courage, and then you get the knowledge, correct?
Mm-hmm.
So if someone was going out for the surgery that you have done, what would be the first step?
The first step in getting the surgery?
In getting the knowledge, getting the surgery.
You know, here's what I went through. I went through Albany Med, and this is what I will say. And I know that the Albany Med and the St. Peter's programs and most these programs are pretty much similar in the fact that they really do teach you to be knowledgeable. Like, this is not something that I went into lighthearted. Like, this is serious surgery. I weighed the pros and cons. Like, but I went in informed because of the surgeons and the doctors. I asked questions. I talked to other people who had the surgery. I talked to actually several different people who had different kinds of surgery. I talked to someone who had the sleeve. I talked to someone who had the bypass. I talked to someone who had the sleeve 4 and 5 years ago. So I really did. I wanted to know every part of this journey. And that's another portion that kind of led to me wanting to do the documentary of it, because I was so looking for the knowledge. And I just wasn't finding exactly what I wanted, which was, how does this process work? What do I need to do? How is this really going to affect me? What's the long-term effects? Like, I really didn't, you occasionally see things like my 600-pound life, which is it's just like a real extreme. It's such a big extreme, but it's not relative to the normal obese, overweight person. So that was something that I wanted to really get in, kind of show, because a lot of people don't know, just the process. But really, it started off with just going to my doctor's office and saying, hey, I'm really ready to tackle this weight thing, and I'm looking at alternative options. What are they? And that's kind of what started it.
And I love your journey, because you're using the technology and the resources that is available to us today to be a better you. You're losing weight on your own. Psychologically, you probably couldn't have overcome that. But using the resources that we have today, you use it to be a better you. And that's what I like to tell my listeners and the people I come in contact with. When it comes to money is just a tool to like make your life easier. If you can, you should. So I don't want you guys to look at her like she used a shortcut or she didn't really put in the work. She overcame a fear, invested in herself to be a better you. And I want to let you know that I love that.
Well, thank you, because the other thing about Project Shrinking Violet. I want to remove the stigma, and I'm talking about stigma on several different levels. I want to remove the stigma of obesity, like that's like a bad word. And here's the thing: I was obese. That was a fact. It's nothing. You know what I mean? Let's have the conversation. Let's talk about it, okay? And again, looking at it as a symptom versus a disease. My obesity was a symptom of an underlying issues. I also want to remove the stigma of childhood trauma and molestation, because here's the thing: in doing this documentary, I've done the research. I've talked to the therapist. 1 in 4 women of color are being sexually abused. That also correlates completely with the rate of women of color and obesity. Now, yes, certain things are just coincidence. However, let's look at the fact that people of color are 10 times likely to not receive help, therapy, or help, any kind of resources for trauma, even though we know that they're a much more traumatized community. So, and I also, socioeconomics comes into play. I take a camera into my corner store. You know what I mean? And I show the foods that are available to me where I live. My corner store just started carrying water 3 years ago. And that was because I was complaining because I literally couldn't get bottled water. They only had juice and soda and flavored beverages. So when you stop just thinking, okay, you see a fat person, overweight person, you think, oh, overeating, and you go on about you. Let's think about some of the other possible things that could be going on that are outside this person's control. Because I think there's a lot of it that's just like, oh, everything's on the person. And yes, you are ultimately in control of your destiny. And that's what Project Shrinking Violet is about. It's about you are the best project you will ever work on. So yes, I utilized a tool that was available to me. And there's a stigma of if you get a surgery that you're cheating. But let me tell you, there's lots of people who get the surgery and don't have big weight losses, or who gain the weight right back. Like it's all about your mindset and how you choose, to really live your life and go about using this. I went in going, I can't get past this hump.
Mm-hmm.
I need something to make me do it. And this hopefully right now I'm at my adult lowest weight. So I'm literally in uncharted territories as we speak. And I know that I do know that I don't think I would have got here on my own, because I kind of had an emergency brake situation going on in my head that I couldn't untrain.
Yeah.
And this really pushed me past it. And it's not comfortable. It's not easy. I show that in the documentary. I have anxiety about certain things. I'm adjusting to things being different in some areas. Just noticing how people interact with me differently. It's not all, protein shakes and gains and squats like, people make it seem. And it's just like, no, I want to show the real raw version of it. And
yeah,
there's video of me on the my YouTube channel eating cake in bed. Like I'm 1,000% real with it. Like it's like you will see me in the gym doing a burpee, and then you will see me in my bed crying eating cake. Because I want to show there's more than one path to success. It's about just keep moving forward.
I love it, and I want to emphasize on you using the resources and the technology that's there for you. That's what it's for.
It is for. And honestly, the biggest resource that I used, hands down, was the therapy. That was something, and that comes from, I need to change this behavior. And it's hard because I'm smart. And so I think that I can think my way out of everything. It's always been my problem. And that's even what essentially my coping mechanism. It was a 10-year-old me trying to figure out how to make a situation better. And I gotta say, that's pretty smart to go make yourself fat. You know what I mean? It's extreme, but even 10-year-old me was always thinking of a solution. And so I think I got to a point that I was like, I need an objective approach to this because I'm too close to it. And so getting a third person, and at first I was like, this isn't going to help. No one's going to know me better than I know me. But she asked the right questions that I wasn't asking myself. And out of the doctor's appointments, out of the gym, out of the sit-ups, out of everything that I've done, out of the surgery, the therapy has been the biggest contributor to what has helped me maintain and keep going forward in losing weight.
I love it.
Like that, and self-care isn't a popular idea. I feel like, especially within the ethnic community of keeping things in house. But it's about finding someone you're comfortable with, and really being ready to be honest with yourself. And again, it has to be a good situation. But like, I think it's worth it. If you keep finding yourself running into the same wall, it's time to start examining why you're hitting that wall over again. You know what I mean? Rather than just keep beating yourself up.
So, when you're going to therapy, how did you prepare yourself to go to therapy? Because where I come from, like, we would frown upon something like that. You will be soft. You would be uncool. So if you have this stigma from society.
You know what? Let me tell you, I was already living in a place of already worried about what people were thinking about me and for how I looked, that I didn't care anymore. I was in a place of, I don't care what anybody thinks anymore. I just care about what I think, because I'm the person who's got to live with this. I'm the person who's got to live in this body. I'm the person who's got to walk around. So why am I always thinking about what other people might be thinking about? Because I guarantee it's not me. And kind of having that position and going into Project Shrinking Violet with that, it has allowed me to be fearless. It has allowed me to show my vulnerability. It has allowed me to try things I would never try, because I've lived my life in a place of fear. I'm no longer living in that space. So to kind of go forward, not afraid of anything, I learned this great coping mechanism through therapy, which is that whenever you have a fear or an anxiety, you talk yourself through it. So something small, like, I don't want to go to this event because it's gonna be so many people there. Just a random thought, okay? And then, okay, what happens if there's a lot of people there? Well, I'm going to be uncomfortable. So what are you going to do if you're uncomfortable? Maybe step outside for a while and then will you be comfortable? And like, so you just talk yourself through the whole scenario and realize that it was really something you'd worked up in your head. Mm-hmm. And so that's just one of those things that you don't necessarily think to slow down and do when you're just living your life, you mm-hmm. know? And now it's a technique that I do when I'm feeling a certain kind of way. I also, first of all, I felt ridiculous in therapy for the first couple weeks. I was like, I had a bad attitude, and mind you, I went of my own free will and was still mad about it. Like, I'm mad at my parents. I'm mad, like, I'm still mad about it because I'm like, I gotta squeeze this into my schedule, and I was like, this isn't gonna work. I went in with the mindset of, I don't even know if this is gonna work, you know, but I gotta say I tried, right? I gotta at least say I tried. And after a couple weeks of kind of, she did a good job of wearing me down, because I did try and kind of keep her out, because it's a hard thing to let somebody else mm-hmm. in, especially into your personal stuff that you're not even dealing with. You know what I mean? Like, I'm supposed to have a conversation with you about some stuff that I haven't even talked to myself about. Like, mm-hmm. But it's once a relationship was established, some trust was established, and there was just a way about that allowed me to let my guard down. And once I did that, I was able to open up to myself about things that, and you just go on, especially when you're just trying to survive. And that's what a lot of people of color and people coming up are just trying to survive their childhood and their life, not let alone thrive, mm-hmm. So you don't take those moments to be self-reflective of like, hey, maybe this screwed me up a little bit. Yeah. I should probably deal with this a little something, So yeah, I think just having that reflection really that other perspective and going in there, even though I wasn't comfortable with it at first, my commitment to changing my actions and to, having that, establishing that trust allowed me to get comfortable and kind of really dig into what I needed to dig into.
I love it. I've had some females come on the show and they're mindset coaches. Mm-hmm. And for you to sit here and say to begin your journey on your weight loss, it was mindset. And I'm seeing that a lot with everything.
Everything's mindset.
You want to do is mindset.
Everything in this world, and that's why I said, if Project Shrinking Violet lures you in with watching someone go from big to small, good, fine, whatever gets you to the table. Why I want you at the table is the meal. I don't want, you know what I mean? It's not, if you came over for the fancy tablecloth, that's great, but I want you there for the meal. And the meal of Project Shrinking Violet is self-help, self-care, self-love. It's about dealing with the gap that is huge in our society for socioeconomic reasons, for resources, to even, for therapy. Like you said, there's a lot of people, well, where do I even go to even start that conversation? Like there's so much, there's so many components to this that I want to get into, to really show a mirror to our society. Because like I said, when you look at America, we know that statistically over half of America is overweight. And here's the thing. I don't want people to think that I associate weight with being unhappy, because I know plenty of happy, confident people of all different shapes and sizes. But a lot of the time, like, if you see someone with a limp, they usually have a leg problem. You know what I mean? A lot of the time, people who are obese and morbidly obese have other underlying issues besides health. There's psychological issues that they're not dealing with.
Yeah.
So I want to talk about those psychological issues. I want to talk about the trauma. I want to talk about the economics. I want to talk about the ugly things we don't want to talk about. And it's easier to say someone's being lazy than to say that our society is breeding an environment for unhappiness and unhealthiness.
Exactly. Because like when you grow up where I grew up in Arbor Hill, and we really were raised on the corner store food, like you were saying. All the money we get, we go right to the corner store. So if you're getting everything from the corner store, we're just eating beef patties and subs and sodas and juices, and that's how someone economically may become.
And like I talk about, there's different points in my life where I didn't have a car. So I was grocery shopping on the bus. And guess what? Maybe the choices that I picked and threw in my cart weren't the healthiest, but they were the lightest to carry from the bus stop to my house. There's just so many little things that that maybe the larger society doesn't think of when they're thinking of. I actually didn't grow up inside of Albany. I grew up outside of Albany, still poor, but I grew up outside by Thatcher Park in Bern. So I was in the rural area, and I talk about this in my documentary. I grew up, for 4 years in my house, we did not have running water. We had well, and I don't mean like pump, that was a fancy well. I mean a crank, bucket, and well system for so when you're, that was another thing. When you get your water for everything in your house, from flushing your toilet to washing your dishes to doing whatever, guess what you're not drinking? Water. So I grew up not really drinking. I grew up mostly drinking soda and stuff like that. So I grew up not drinking water. Same as most kids actually I came to realize, in the city, it was drinking, soda and juices and Kool-Aid. So like I said, economics plays a part. It doesn't matter where you are, there's this. And they talk about it occasionally, but you'll hear these things about food stamps and SNAP and who predominantly gets that. The Midwest predominantly gets food stamps because that's socioeconomically the poorest part of the country, because they'd have the least industry, which demographically is more white than people of color. You don't talk about that a lot, but there are more white people on food stamps and assistance because of those middle states that have a lower economy. So again, and then when you think of things like, someone says you're Midwestern, they're basically saying you're chunky. So you know what I mean? Just like I said, there's a whole lot of things you just go and say in passing and you never really think about. But I mean, when you stop and think about it, there's a society that breeds this.
So let me ask you this, if you feel comfortable sharing.
Absolutely.
What was your largest weight or heaviest?
My heaviest weight that I know of was 405.
So you went for 405 and you lost 100.
When I started losing weight, I was 363. So,
okay.
So yeah, so I'm 100 pounds. Right now I'm 260. So I lost 103 pounds. So yeah. So since then, my highest at 405 was probably 7 years prior to me being 363.
Okay, so now you lose your 100 pounds, and you want to get to.
I don't know that I like to be around 180, 190. Like I said, I'm 260-ish right now. I'm actually closer to 259, 58, somewhere around there. But yeah, so I think just to appease my doctor, I'm saying 180. Listen, this is all virgin territory for me. So I don't know when I'm gonna get to a point that I'm like, whoa, Nelly, wait a minute, this is too much. This is too much. So I don't know. Because I can't even wrap my head around, I don't know if you can see my face, but when I'm saying 190, I'm like, because I haven't seen that since elementary school, which may seem crazy to you, but to me, I can't, there's no before picture. There's no I want to get back in those jeans. No, it's the ultrasound. I've been big since little. So, so it's nerve wracking, but I think maybe 190, 200, we'll see what happens. I don't know.
I mean, I'm rooting for you.
I'm rooting for me too.
So now you say you have a challenge.
Yes.
I want to speak about the challenge so the people know and they can get involved.
Yes. This is the other part of Project Shrinking Violet, which I'm super excited about. It's interactive. I answer emails and inboxes from women all over the country talking about, some women have talked to me about their childhood trauma. Some women have talked to me about the anxiety post-surgery or losing weight or how, what am I eating now? And so I've made this a totally interactive experience where you can go on the YouTube channel, you can go on my Facebook page, but I have something that is particularly special to me. It is the Chubster list. So the Chubster list is essentially my fat bucket list. Because I've been overweight for my whole adult life, there's things that either my weight or being insecure have stopped me from doing lots of things, regular schmegular things. So it's not I've done things. I didn't even learn how to swim till I was 30 because I hated bathing suits. So some of the things I've done is I did the Lyra hoop, which is the hula hoop that hangs from a ceiling. I did aerial yoga. So every 10 pounds I lose, I do a challenge to do something I've never done before. I have things on my list like parasailing, horseback riding, believe it or not, karaoke, which I know this seems like normal stuff, but there was and that's Project Shrinking Violet. So Shrinking Violet is someone who's shy, right? That's the thing. And for lots of my childhood and teen years, I was painfully shy. I actually went to high school with a lot of the women in Albany who I know now who don't remember me from high school because I was so shy. I didn't speak to anyone. They remember my brother, don't remember me. And so I feel like a Shrinking Violet is opposite of who I am now, but I'm physically shrinking. So that's where the name came from. Mm-hmm. But I definitely, I love the idea of doing the challenge. And I encourage other people to do it with me. If there's something that somebody else wants to do and they hit their weight loss goal, I told them to, let me know and I'll do, something with them, if they want to try something, if they're nervous or don't want to reach out to their friends, or maybe they want to do something and they're not sure if a plus size person can do it. I talk about taking a spin class on my page. I took my very first spin class, and so I talked about it from an overweight person's perspective, because there might be someone out there who wants to take a spin class but goes, the fat people do this. And I'm like, yeah, we do it. It didn't bad. Bring a towel for your butt. It's all good. So the Chubster list, my next big one is awesome because it's viewer's choice. So I'm about 7 pounds away from my 250-pound mark. And the 250-pound challenge is viewer's choice. So whatever is commented the most on the Chubster list challenge thread, when I reach my goal, I'll tally them all up. And if I get 10 votes for parasailing, I'm parasailing. If I get 10 votes for jumping out of a plane, I'm jumping out. You know what I mean? So it depends on whatever has the most write-ins.
I love it.
So,
and where could someone find this to follow it?
Okay, so Project Shrinking Violet is on. It has its own YouTube channel. And that's where my marketing trailer is up there so you can preview the documentary and kind of see like my before from where I started. And occasionally I update that, and you can go to the discussions portion of that and put vote for what would you want to do on the Chubster list. Also, Project Shrinking Violet is on Facebook and Project Shrinking Violet on Instagram. And there's a thread up there. So it's kind of everywhere. And actually, I'm excited because Project Shrinking Violet is a sponsor of Curvention this year, which, is kind of the monster that created me. So,
yeah.
So shout out to those ladies. So it's been great because I actually went through every part of Curvention, from, model and poet to, performer and host. And now I'm a sponsor. So I love that.
I love it. I think we covered a lot. Mm-hmm. I think the people would definitely want to see you back. So
thank you.
If you're at like 258 now, mm-hmm. I want to get you back at 210.
Oh, 210? All right. All right. It's a date. It's 210.
I want to get you back at 210. Definitely thank you for taking the time out.
Oh, thank you for having me.
The viewers and the watchers is like 3 cameras, so I don't know where to look. Make sure you get up, you get out, and you get you some. Thank you.
Thank you.